Hello, and welcome to Resolve, an after-play show. This is an after show for a role-playing game that does not have an actual play, where we tell you all the details of our game so you don't have to listen to it. I'm Sammie, I'll be your host. My pronouns are she, her, and I play Asiri Omoli, the mermaid. Joining me today is my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I use he, him pronouns. I play Moogle bounty hunter Smog and his Marlboro companion Juice. Both also use he, him pronouns.
We are joined today by Dexter.
Hello, my name is Dex Fan. I use he, him pronouns, and I am playing as Athenos, who is a gender-bent furry version of Athena.
Also joining us is Daniel.
Hi, I'm Dan. My pronouns are he, him, and I am the game master for this campaign.
Alright, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Now that we're all here, Alex, why don't you tell us about the actual play?
Previously, in EFFETE, the beast reveals itself and speaks to the party about its nature and the party's arrival. The beast stirs Asiri's hunger, nearly turning her frenzy on the party. Asiri and Juice spread a sleep gas to halt the battle with the beast against a gigantic Athenos and a dragon-formed Tau. Juice approaches a light appearing in the cave. It paralyzes him and Smog. The beast looks healed and carries a bright shield. Juice releases a spell, letting everyone move again. The party learns that the beast is a titan-like being, a force of nature more than a concept worshipped. Asiri reminds the beast that it cannot eat everything and must coexist with the sun. The beast reveals the world core, bright butterfly made of 2 sets of expanding rings. Asiri touches the core, returning the party to the world of spirit. The core travels through the portal to Sequence Charter. Athenos retrieves the Twilight Sphere and considers who he'll leave it to. At the church, they find the Coalition and everyone who had been put to sleep awakening. Susie introduces the group to her pa. Smog opens a portal to the world of the lost, but receives a note from the Master rather than his items. He dedicates himself to creating a replica of Rig. Willow holds a celebration for the formation of their new religion, at which Tau performs alongside Horsefly.
Alright, so now that you've heard the actual play, let's do a deep dive into the session. So yeah, the beast. We met the beast.
The Beast!
The beast!
I was really excited for this particular session just because, we have been building up to this beast for so long. It's what all the previous sessions were leading to. It felt like we got here, and then we had to, investigate immediately, what was going on and figure out who or what force was causing people to fall asleep forever. This was, a long time coming.
Yeah, this certainly did feel like the culmination of your guys' exploration of this world.
My big moment was the last session. I was looking for ways to play more of a supporting role here, but it was exciting to see everyone else, given all the tools and nudging, reach a conclusion here.
I think I see what you're saying. You're talking about Smog's gentle guiding hand
Yes.
into the influences of others in the party.
Would you call that gentle?
Sometimes more than others. He gently motivated Susie's paw off of the bed.
I'm sure he did.
I was about to say it wasn't forceful. I guess in that case it was, but I'm thinking more about the party. Not forceful, but malignant.
Yeah.
When we first met the beast, I was actually very confused by its nature. It wasn't until I continued talking with Dan throughout the session and afterwards even to understand that the beast was a being that was so antithetical to the party's, their sentiments and their own beliefs. The beast just had its own agenda that kind of made Athenos question his own strength.
Definitely one thing that I took from this is that the nature that I had set up for this beast kind of threw people for a loop. Its worldview, its attitude towards things is so alien to what a lot of the rest of the group has. When we think about the pantheons that are attributed to the rest of the group, you usually think of more intelligent entities, ones that have more grand visions for things, ones that have a desire to be worshipped, acknowledged, and respected, as opposed to a more primal, antiquated way of looking at how a deity might be described.
See, I picked up exactly what you were putting down on a nice, delicious platter for us, because that's mostly how Asiri views the Abyss, and that's their understanding of it. So that's probably one of the reasons she was like, oh, it's not a matter of morality or choice here, it's a morality of this is what I have to do because this is how I exist.
From Athanos' perspective, he was viewing this beast as a malicious force, because to him, and probably to Tao as well, who isn't here, the beast was taking away people's free will, doing something to them, right? A god in Athanos' mind is someone who should be worshipped of, like, the people's choice. When we encountered the beast, it was also very fascinating because the beast had some incredibly solid arguments for the misguided creature that it ended up being. It was like, who are you to interfere with our world? Like, this is the way our world is. None of you are from here. What are you doing? I didn't have a response. I was like, it's right.
We're just here, bro. Like, sorry, man.
In Smog's view, it's like the worst of both of those views. It's like the gods are more than sapient. They have an ability to understand people and things and are very social, but also they should just be respected because they are and shouldn't have to kowtow to the demands of people. That's why Smog also vibed with things, but maybe in an even more sinister way than Asiri does, even if that's not necessarily what the Espers would demand of him. That's also why he felt the need to back out of there being an actual fight. Athanos and Tao especially wanted to get in there, and he's like, all right, this is now a fight between gods. This is a clash of the Titans, and that is not something that I should be stacking up with. This is a matter between gods, and that's for them to fight. I don't have to question any moral implications because I'm not powerful enough to matter in the
Meanwhile, Asiri's like, I need to get in the middle of this exactly and stop it. I'm gonna swim my fishy tail. This needs to stop.
I need to mediate between the gods right now.
Right now.
Something that I wanted to put out there with this culmination, a lot of subtext, a lot of subtlety. I was telling Dex, I think it worked because there's no one intended way that I was expecting the party to go. As a matter of fact, I was actually looking forward to the dichotomy between people who wanted to try to reason with this thing, which is on its surface a very unreasonable sort of entity, and others who rightly so wanted to kill it in order to defend the people that it was preying upon. I wanted to reinforce that those were both correct ways of thinking, but it's a sort of gray area that causes this difference in ideas. I think for Tao, this was also a very strong moment for them. It kind of harkens back to their origin story. They had to deal with someone who wanted to become akin to a god and essentially enslaved and preyed upon entire masses of people in order to do so, in order to make their world according to their worldview. So Tao was absolutely not prepared to let this thing do a similar thing. I was very curious, Alex, on what your thoughts on the beast were, because especially when we were talking about a description akin to a titan, I was very curious what your thoughts behind that were.
It is a little more than that. That's just what I could fit in the notes. It's interesting to think of something that is worshipped in a way, or at least understood in a religious context, but also gained power from its own belief that exists as a deity that also worshipped something else. I don't know quite what to do with that, and I don't know if Smog would either. It seems, at least in the context of his world, perhaps sacrilegious that something could take up an aspect that already existed without fighting with another god that already had that. It seems strange that something could exist into being where there was nothing, like that energy became a person rather than that person supplies the energy.
That was also what threw me off, as like the people kind of created this creature that they believed in and therefore it had power, rather than the other way around, like a traditional view of like a creator of our world, for example.
Yeah, it's interesting that it is both of those things, because we talked a bit about Athena's taking a closer look at it and sort of understanding that it had a worship of the moon.
For this, I pulled kind of a leaf out of World of Darkness for the lore of this world, in that there's an origin story, but there's several different accounts for the origin story that can have some conflicting descriptions for things, and it's not super clear which one is correct, because no one was there at the time that it happened. I was thinking that if I was to do this again, I would probably include more opportunities to maybe test certain aspects of it. And that way it's a little bit more clear on as to what exactly you guys are dealing with a little bit earlier. I don't immediately know how that would work, but that's definitely what I would try to do.
I'm stupid, so sometimes you just have to hit me over the head with the information.
Yeah.
I think that approach works really well for a lot of the World of Darkness games because most of them take place in contemporary or at least like modern times. So there's such a huge distance from it, but it's hard to show us a world that is not as technologically advanced as some of the other ones that are like even farther past contemporary with our times, and then have them feel still less connected to their religion. It was a surprise to me when we found out later that it was essentially Father Shade who brought a lot of this into the town, but also that it was still distant for them.
That kind of comes down to this ground that I never quite covered, which was how this sort of faith system might have evolved over time. My idea was that it's not too dissimilar for what a lot of faith systems in our world have evolved like. A lot of major religions nowadays, like some of their origin deities come about from even older mythology, even older legends. But as faith in certain belief systems changed over time, some other deities that might have existed in the origin myths became more abstract. Maybe they came about in other ways as the religion sort of modernized. This sort of origin tale between the sleep beast, the sun, and the moon is something that became lost as it was modified, as belief systems changed, and people embraced these different grids of belief.
This is my favorite interpretation of deities. I play with this a lot in my own creative works, and being able to be on the receiving end of that was always a treat for me. It helps me gauge how effective certain tools are, and I will have to give props to Dan because it's not an easy thing to represent something that primal or at least elementary in nature, and I think you did a very good job of that.
Thank you. If there was a way to at least better equip the players with a more coherent picture of that, I think that would have helped a bit. I am pretty satisfied with how the beast turned out, how it behaved, but I think there was a little bit of I don't know if it's a disconnect or it is kind of more left as a surprise.
The resolution of the beast was very satisfying, again, because this is like a culmination of not just this chapter, but it was also a culmination of all of our characters' separate ideals, because we had been like going all over the place based on like what we would have done. We split the party multiple times, and even at the end we were not uniform in this decision on how to deal with the sleep beast. And I think my only thing that I wish I had known sooner was have a more concrete idea of what the beast was, because I don't think it was really until we met the beast that I fully kind of grasped the concept. That's when it kind of came together, that there was this vagueness because it was something that happened so long ago, and it was like a religion, and it was all these separate things, but it wasn't all of them because such is the nature of something that's so old and so ancient and so worshipped.
I love towards the end of the confrontation when the Thanos and Assyria were just talking to the beast, and like Thanos just like looks off to the side and is like, "Oh, you're stupid."
Up until that precise moment, the beast was so eloquent. It was posing such valid points of like, why are you here? It's not natural for you to be here. Why are you interfering in forces that are not under your control? And then it also didn't understand that the sun could rise. It didn't understand the day-night cycle.
It doesn't understand sharing.
Yes. And I was like, basic concept.
It very adequately embodied that spirit of instinct, that spirit of animalism. Its origins were so well covered by losses and erosion due to time. If I was to run a campaign like this again, I would definitely think about ways of maybe giving some bigger clues. Okay, in some of the ways, its instincts proved to be quite clever on the surface. How it eliminated certain people in the town, how it was able to hide during the daytime and bid its time until it had to come out at night. Those are things that played to its advantages fairly well, but maybe if I had more that showed that it really didn't know how a lot of things actually worked, that might have been a bit better.
Going on that like track of like animalism, I think my absolute favorite moment last session was when Asiri and the Beast were talking one-on-one, and then it was like, have you known hunger? And Asiri, just coming off of like a previous 3 month starvation, was like, yes. And then the Beast was like, then you understand. And then that's when they got its hooks into Asiri and turned him onto the rest of the party. I love that. I was fully prepared to give Dan control of my character for that scene. He did not do that, but like I still acted in that way. But I was like, yes, you understand, you get it. You know what this fish wants and is.
Asiri had a lot of godly attention in this previous episode.
And to be fair, she kind of needs it because her last interaction with her tribe and everything, she's still learning what to do as a priestess, and this might be one of the things that awakens what her purpose is.
Primary above all else was the points that Asiri made resonated absolutely the strongest with the Beast's way of thinking. That's how it was inclined to keep listening. Another side of it is that I was hoping that Asiri of all people would definitely feel not exclusively, but the strongest connection of the party, because this was a world that I had primarily had Asiri in mind when making. People are going to find a lot of connections to these different worlds because it's truly an eclectic mix, but some will definitely be a lot stronger than others. And for the world of spirit, in this case, it was a series that had a lot of inspiration that I drew from when designing the tones and attitudes of certain things.
Yeah, we have teachers who are not very clear. We have youths trying to understand their place in the world. We have hunger and need. Yeah. The only thing I was missing was my pet, but you know.
Yeah, I keep on saying if this was a world that was more for Smog, people would be absolutely tearing shit up. But not seeing that is also a big deal for him.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see how our characters grow going forward, since we did come off of getting yanked forcibly from our own worlds into the Sequence Charters world, and then going on this quest for them to find the cores of X number of worlds, and then we get in, and then we're immediately thrust into a mystery. This world was how we got to know each other. And we ended up, like, turning on each other during it.
Yeah. It was kill the Beast group, Asiri alone and protecting the Beast, and then, like, Smog was just kind of somewhere in the middle for the most of it.
Pony and Geyser also were in the camp of, I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
People have very strong beliefs in this party. And I'm not going to say anything more on that. It is interesting that, like Dex said, this is the first time you guys worked together to really solve something bigger. There's going to be some time now where we'll be able to get into a little bit more of the inter-party relationships, spending some time outside of having a singular purpose uniting you guys. We can see how it plays out.
So Dan mentioned that our characters have a very strong set of beliefs, and I firmly believe that that was a part of the intense amount of character building that we each did with you before the game even started. We did like a whole bunch of world building for our own characters. I feel like we all got into our characters' heads before the game even started. So we had a preconceived notion of what our characters wanted. That's why we have such a strong set of personalities right now.
Yeah, bouncing off of that, once we go back to Sequence Charter and sort of maybe have like a day or so to like cool off and just sort of recover from our nonstop escapades in the world of spirit. Asiri's hurting right now. There's a lot of, I don't want to say like anger, because I don't think she's mad. She understands why Tau did what they did, why Athenos chose what they chose, and what all the other characters were doing at the time. But it definitely pushes a wall against her worldview about like, why would you immediately resort to violence when we could at least talk about it first? I think that's the thing that's sticking with her, because she's not offended that she was alone in the choice. She lives in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. She's used to being alone. But she wanted a little bit more cohesion than what was given to her, and I think that frustrates her on a fundamental level. Plus, like Dee said in a previous episode, she's completely fatigued with choices and like decision fatigue and all that. So she's burnt out right now. She's fucking done.
And what decisions will be made in the future as well.
If I'm thinking about it from Tao's point of view, and I don't know if this is what Zach will say when we get to it, they were itching to fight when they got in, yes, but also, like, stood back and tried to do the talking. Tried to use the anger they were already feeling to be the bad cop, and we were like, immediately, no, you can't even be a bad cop. You gotta step down. You've gotta be tender with this beast. So I think that's gonna be, like, part of the nuance of that conversation when it happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part of that conversation probably also is going to involve what violence is, because in this particular case, some of the party probably feels like the beast chose violence first by consuming the people in the way that it was.
It absolutely was. It was acting as a predator to these people who had literally nothing to do with this creature, this sort of deity, and they were being harvested left and right. Tao's sort of reaction to that sort of indignance on behalf of the people of Willow is completely well-founded.
But Asiri would counter with, do you blame the shark for eating the seal if he's hungry? If it's in their nature, how can you judge a predator?
That exactly goes up with Tao's sort of idealism. Tao wants to do what Mew did, but with more willingness. You know, they want to try to make a more perfect version of what they had going on. That's the kind of question maybe that Tao will have to think about in terms of how to make it more perfect.
It's also such a difficult question for a digital being who exists to create music, whose entire life is social. Cannot conceive of a beast, or has probably never really interacted with a beast.
Tao's worldview is very much aligned with, in this world of spirit, with the sort of principles embodied by the concept of the sun. A lot of the actions according to reason, actions according to hope and thoughtfulness, some semblance of order. The beast, its worldview, again, is like completely disconnected from that.
I have to question, if Tao had gotten as close to the beast as Asiri did, would Tao have been susceptible to that animalistic instinct that overtook Asiri? Because Tao is, again, digital, doesn't have a concept of what instinct might be.
God, these are such deep philosophical questions for
Hi,
our table
nice
talking.
to meet you.
Yeah. Something that you guys did not run across was some of the things that I had in mind for how stuff could evolve. A lot of the trajectory of this was kind of reactionary to what you guys were doing. The beast it's the king of instinct. It's the king of giving into those sudden pulse urges. Asiri finding that grounding in their own hunger. And that's why I wouldn't describe it as much of a mind control, but it's kind of like riding a wave, you know? You are just kind of aligning yourself with this energy that it just exudes in mass. One of the scenarios that I had in mind was that sort of aspect affecting the entire town of the people of Willow, basically causing a zoo in frenzy. Much along the similar way that Siri experienced a little bit in that encounter at the end. But you guys fortuitously brought the beast to a different world, which if we could talk about for a bit, I was absolutely not expecting this to happen when we started this game.
This was the result of a series nonsense. So my reasoning was, I don't want these people to get hurt in the crossfire of whatever the hell's about to go down.
Yeah.
And if we can do someplace neutral where the beast doesn't have either as much sway or as much power, that makes things more likely to go in either our favor or in like a mutual agreement.
I really like how you guys have used other worlds to solve those problems. And I think this was so far one of my favorite examples of that.
Speaking to your example of the beast's influence infecting the people and then causing them to frenzy and perhaps attack us, I thought it was really cool the way you were able to utilize this like mystery about the beast to play with a lot of fantasy horror, not tropes per se, but like it very much felt like we were in like this small fantasy town. Zombies could have come out from a well. It was really interesting to see you kind of subvert the way that fantasy horror works by utilizing this beast.
I'm so happy you acknowledged that, because that was the entirety of what I was trying to accomplish in this world. A horror mystery, but with some twists to it. Part of the vagueness about the beast was to encourage a little bit of accusations about people in the town. Because for the longest time, people were pointing fingers to people in the town who could be causing these things. And I think that was great. I really like the whodunit lead that was teased along.
It was very werewolf. It was very Clue. It was like campy horror, like very fun. It was like Sleepy Hollow. There we go. Or like Sabrina, that kind of thing. It was very that.
I feel like there's been something like this in the Shrekiverse. There's been a little like mystery going on.
They had like a Halloween special.
Yeah, maybe something like that. So I was thinking, it does still like remind me a lot of Shrek.
Because nothing was ever described, except maybe like horsefly vomiting up Ecor, but nothing was ever described as like gory or like things that prey upon normal terrors. Like there weren't insects crawling up the walls, like there wasn't like some sort, like the beast wasn't like a tentacle unknowable thing, it was just sort of a shadow.
Children's horror always gets one moment.
Yeah.
One thing to give the child a true nightmare.
That's one of the things I love about children's horror in particular, is because you can't get away with just murder and like the disgusting gore. All these tropes you see in like slasher films and such, whatever, they can't do that because they have to maintain their child-friendly rating. So what you really get is some really fucked up psychological horror instead, which is, I think, arguably worse.
Yeah.
That's precisely why the people in this town didn't die because of the beast, because I felt like, yeah, there's the stakes of saving the rest of the town, but there's a little bit of that tension with actually being able to rescue the ones who were victimized by it. It was something that felt to me a little bit more interesting than just outright murder. It would harken back to a lot of old folk tales, a lot of old myths as well, about this sort of plague of unending sleep.
Yeah, and that sort of worked in our favor as well at the end there, because we were just like, hey, Beast, if you make all these people sleep forever, they're eventually going to die, and then you'll be starving again, and then you'll be back at square one.
That convincing motion was something that I felt was a sort of final nail in resolving that. That's exactly how this beast was designed. I designed them to have a boar-like head and appearance because boars ravage the environments that they're in. They're an animal like any other, but they will cause untold destruction left unchecked. A lot of time they're just hunted, you know? It's an animal and it wants to just keep eating. That way of taking a screwdriver to its worldview, you know, is what was so, in my mind, particularly effective.
Hopping a bit back to conversations we might have back on Sequence Charter, I was also thinking of having Smog talk with Tau, and really thinking about what you said with Tau, them embodying a lot of the sun aspect of deities in that world. Because I've mentioned earlier in this episode, Smog having this idea of you don't create a deity, they exist embodying the thing. They don't embody the thing that already existed. I think there's going to be some conversation with Tau about the nature of their existence. And especially as somebody who's so geared towards service since they can remember, asking, are you sure that you are not a force that was honed in by people to serve them, that has some other meaning? Are you completely bound as a digital construct, or is there something more to you? Because you seem to have plenty of power that does not seem just digital.
That's definitely a good question to start sooner rather than later, because I think it's inevitable that it's going to come up.
It's also something baked into Tokyo Mirage Sessions, because the whole shtick is that the Mirages are being forced into contemporary world against their will, and they want to return home, not have to be these powerful forces wielded by musicians. So I think it'll dovetail what Tau's doing and Tau's origin to start that conversation.
Along with getting to know each other's characters further in this brief moment of not being in another world, which also I'm very excited about because the Beast mentioned that we threw the whole world's balance out of whack when we entered, so I'm curious if that's going to be a recurring theme. There's a game that I played in a separate campaign where we all were sitting around a campfire, and to get to know each other's characters better, you had one scar, one souvenir, and one skill. So your skill is obviously something that your character's good at. Your souvenir is something that the character's carrying at all times, and a scar is perhaps something interesting that happened to your character, or perhaps a literal or emotional scar. You would pose these questions in a campfire, so like the first person would ask the second person like about their scar, and then you'd continue looping that until everyone's asked everyone about each of their things, and it ended up providing a huge amount of information about each player's character that everyone was able to immediately like grok in that session. I feel like something like on that vein could be very cool to explore with our characters in when we get to Sequence Charter again.
Yeah, I'm very excited for something like that because again, we really haven't had a chance to like talk about each other to each other. And I think if we had like a baseline for what we were dealing with, we might be operating a bit more in sync.
I was going to ask, like, Dex, who do you feel like you want to talk with? And it seems like the answer is everyone. And I'm just imagining now a Thanos giant form with one building story clipboard going through some like icebreaker questions.
Yes, a Thanos, god of mixers.
God of icebreakers.
Just scooping up everyone.
Athena is supposed to be about wisdom, right? That can be knowing your peers.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, Dex, was how has Thanos' view exactly changed after this conversation? What does he take from that confrontation with the Beast?
That's actually a really cool question because throughout this entire podcast, you've asked this multiple times, like, how has Thanos changed or has Thanos changed? And for the most part, until this final session, Thanos' worldview had not shifted. And now I feel like he's witnessed this being with immense power, but not a lot of mental faculty. And the irony is not lost on him that he's not like the smartest god. Like intellectually wise, probably. Intellectually, probably not. He now wants to learn more about each of these worlds he's going into instead of operating under the assumption that they're all like his own world, because it's clear now that these worlds are all different. He might not understand all of their laws, just like how the Beast didn't understand the laws of its own universe. And as a being with great power, he should know when to mess around with current world settings, I suppose. So he's in a mood to learn, which is definitely different from how he's been throughout the majority of this first chapter.
I like how Thanos may not be there in the intelligence stat, but he does have that high wisdom. And I do like that moment when we were back at the church and how everything was calming down. You were just looking at Susie and going, oh, I understand you a lot better now. That was my favorite for Thanos.
I was actually talking to Dan before the podcasting of how I could encourage Thanos to learn more, and one of the things was potentially to have Thanos to enter like a mortal phase for this next chapter of the story, simply because like the idea of knowing when you're full because you've experienced hunger kind of thing, so knowing what it is to be powerless when he's had power all of his life.
I think it would be really cool for, if Thanos wanted to pursue that, to go into a high mastery playbook, like the Mystic or something.
I already have a skill from the Mystic.
Yeah? Yeah, you're building towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Alex, you're telling me that odds are by the end of even potentially just the next world that you'd be all full on your advancements for your playbook. Granted, a lot of your experience was coming from people making Darklings, and boy howdy, there was a lot of antagonization on both sides of that coin with this party. That's interesting, thinking about what other players might sort of have in mind should they progress to additional playbooks.
I've said it before, maybe not on the podcast, but I do appreciate a very dramatic playbook change when they happen. I will be planning one. It sounds like that could be pretty big for Thanos, and we've talked about a couple others that could be pretty interesting, or could even like still be interesting but blend a little more with where the character's already going. I'm very aware of where people are moving their characters in the story and how that could affect where they choose to go mechanically.
I haven't even considered that.
Just so everybody knows, I have 7 advancements.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I just got the 3rd one last session, so I need to pick my stuff.
Same! Me and Siri over here, we're gonna learn slowly. Sorry about it.
We're gonna learn slowly, but we're gonna have a beautiful growth and bloom at the end.
There's quite a lot of opportunities for leveling from how this campaign has sort of been paced. I don't know how the rest of the worlds will necessarily go, because this was the weird one for at least what I had in mind. One of the worlds could be potentially finished very quickly, depending on what you guys do. It's kind of interesting to see how this might pan out.
I'm in no rush to like change playbooks or level up or anything, because even in Alex's campaign for Interstitial, I didn't change playbooks at all. I didn't get enough experience to do that. It's not a big thing I'm working towards. It doesn't interest me as much. I am curious to see what would happen if it did, but I think a series kind of not set, because obviously all my characters are malleable to whatever they need to be. But right now she's still figuring herself out, and I think part of that is mastering the playbook in that session.
I've had an idea for how Smog transitions since the start of the game. I wasn't expecting to like barrel towards it this fast, but I don't know, it makes sense to me because I also have conceived Smog as an expert, so it seems like there's something more he might need to move towards when I hit a couple more advancements.
What, like 3 more?
It's literally 3 more advancements.
Oh my gosh. I think I'm closer to Sammie / a series line of thought here, where I came in thinking I was going to play the memory from start to finish of this campaign, and it was really only very recently when I was like, I am casting a lot of magic. Perhaps I should be looking into like other, because of just how like the nature of Athenos is, like perhaps there's like other books that are also very good at casting magic that I can look into.
Magic has been a favorite of Athena for a while. It does not matter how frivolous or how powerful they manage to make their magic, but they manage.
What can I say? I like invoking consequences.
Everyone in this group loves casted magic. Even Pony, like that's her whole goal, but she loves doing it even though she shouldn't be great at it yet. Geyser is just constantly casting magic.
Talk about frivolous magic casting, Geyser.
Geyser.
It's true, just to mess with someone.
How do you describe Geyser to somebody? Because she's the kind of person who makes 2 people in a whole church invisible.
Just for the giggles of it.
Just for the giggles.
Do it for the vine.
Oh my god.
They are quite a scamp, is definitely what I would say.
Quite a scamp. That's a good pick.
I do want to circle back to you saying that we've already done the weirdest world, because we also went to the world of the lost, which we did not finish in doing the world of spirit, so I was not right about those being so ridiculously connected. But are you really saying that the world of the lost is somehow more tame than the world of spirit? Is somehow not quite as bonkers?
Maybe I should clarify. The world of the lost, you guys haven't even scratched the surface of how strange the world of the lost is, because there is quite a lot more that you guys have not even touched. Actually, Smog is probably experiencing some of these effects most profoundly, I would say, right about now, and trying to rescue his gear.
Why don't you want me to have my fucking gun?
It is an impact of the nature of these worlds. But what I mean by that is the world of the spirit had this sort of thing that I wanted to do over the course of several days. In sort of my preparation for it, it was the one that, in terms of how it was quote-unquote played, because they're all somewhat different kind of games in ways, was quite different from what Interstitial usually prepares people for. I feel like Interstitial usually prepares people for a pretty quick stint into a world. You're in and you're out. You cause a lot of chaos, you make a lot of friends and enemies, and then you move on to your next world. This one had to have a little bit of an unveiling of the drama. There was a few points where some time has to pass, some days progress, some things change in the town each day. Like Dex mentioned a couple podcast sessions ago, there was a lot of smaller storylines, especially and particularly in this world, that were running in tandem with each other. I don't really think that the other worlds might have such a sort of weird play style compared to the world of spirit, but I am also willing to be surprised as well.
I'm just going to assume that the world of the lost is going to continue to be bonkers as fuck until we figure it out, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to you guys seeing more of the world of the lost. It's definitely not nearly done, but it can also be quite quick depending on how you guys do things. It's a kind of strange scenario.
If we go there every time we sleep in Sequence Charter, I will scream, Smog will scream, Juice will scream.
If we have to kill and hunt another animal, what the fuck is up with the stomach?
We are owed explanations for what the fuck a stomach is.
What is happening there and why?
We have so many questions, And I think chief among them, like we did get into the weeds with like the beast, right? That became the whole a big crux of A World of Spirit. But we were sent here to find the core. Why did the beast have the core? You know, like we still don't know anything. We don't know anything about these cores.
The core is a butterfly, and you will respect it.
The core of the worlds, the connections that you guys are seeking to make in order to, I will say, collaboratively help the folks down at Sequence Charter actually go into worlds that they so choose. That is something that I hope to at least give you guys more on as the campaign progresses. That is a very central question for this campaign, because this is the entirety of the overarching goal of what you guys are doing. Speaking of the world of the Lost and the encounter with the Beast, I was wondering what your guys' thoughts were. If you guys remember what happened to the Beast as it spent longer in the world of the Lost, where it started to get the same neon coloring that animals had, the quote-unquote animals had in there previously. I was wondering if you guys had thought about that, what your guys' thoughts were.
I need more empirical data on what the hell is going on. If we bring other people from other worlds into this place, will they also have the same effect? Do we look like that to other people? I need more information before I can make any sort of assumption.
But we definitely noticed. We were like, this is suspect.
As soon as immediately like, you are sick now, we need to fix this before you turn into one of those fuckers.
Smog did ask a question about that. He asked if the beast had ever been there before, and it responded resolutely no. And it's like, oh, I thought that was definitely going to be like all the other animals were little aspects of the beast that had been hiding around because the beast had been lost to the people. So it was hanging out in the world of the lost. We were even theorizing a couple episodes ago, I think, that Sequence Charter is what made the beast get back to the world of spirit because it was in the world of the lost, and we made those connections.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I think we also theorized at some point that the beast was using the world of the lost as a travel conduit. Every single time we were getting close to it, it like vanished. When we found out that it was actually just inhabiting people during the day, instead we were thinking it was spending the time like using the world of the lost as a portal.
One, the beast, as you guys are very well aware now, does not have the full picture of how things work. And the world of the lost has a very particular type of interplay with how you sort of encounter it, how you sort of perceive it. I can't wait for you guys to meet the Master. It's been so long coming.
The Master frustrates the fuck out of me.
Yay!
At first, Smog was just like, oh, I'm scared of you because you seem to know way more than you should. And then he couldn't get his stuff and was like, actually, fuck you, I hate your guts.
You know what? Actually, screw this guy.
Actually, I hate you.
You know what? I take it back. Fuck you. I'm so excited to learn more. Siri probably doesn't have much of an opinion yet because she can't read, so...
We'll have to get you something from Sequence Charter, like some glasses that let you read, or something.
Wait! Smog has a tablet from Sequence Charter, it probably has a text-to-speech.
There you go, done. You have to teach a Siri how to use a tablet, how to waterproof the tablet.
Or it can help with that.
It was an ocean planet at one point, so they probably have some ways to do it.
Siri wants to go swimming in that ocean. I need to know what the fuck's in there.
Misery.
Misery!
Misery and moon problems.
Oh, I love moon problems. That's the other fucking thing! The moon problems, right? This thing worships the moon, it loves the moon. The moon on Sequence Charter is fucked up. Is the next moon we're gonna find having an issue? Like, we need to... we need to look at the fucking sky, y'all.
A series like, do I need to protect the moon now?
Are we gonna get some Quiznos?
That was one of the things that Siri was thinking on Sequence Charter early on. She was like, we need to fix the moon.
That's something that Siri noticed when you guys first had like a chance of just sitting down and relaxing for a while, is like, oh, there's something horribly wrong with this moon here. Something terrible happened here.
Touches the ground. Something terrible.
I think we're hitting a good time for your usual final question, Sammie.
Sure. I've heard of questions.
Unless somebody has something else big they want to toss out before we get to that.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking about was, like, Pa being a turtle, but that's not critical to the conversation, so never mind.
Yeah, but before we get to the final question, I just want to say, we don't need anyone to comment on this, Pa is a turtle. Susie was probably the catalyst for Father Shade's light magic. There's nothing that we need to question about that. Anyway,
Yeah. I have several questions about that. Also, why is Pa a turtle and Susie is a ladybug? You'd think Pa would be like, at least like a dragonfly or something, like a different bug. How does genetics work in this place?
It's about the shape.
It's about the
Maybe it's not related to bloodlines. And also,
lame.
so long as we're throwing out questions about the world of spirit, we also left a spirit that was, up until moments ago, rampaging and not really sure how much it learned, and we just kind of were like, we hope you learned our lesson. Good luck. We're moving on now.
Asiri held hands with the beast. That was a pact.
I think these are valid questions, and I will leave it open if you guys want to continue to explore more of the world of the spirit. You guys found the core of that world, so any sort of higher purpose for what you guys want to do as an overarching goal might not necessarily be there, but I do want to invite the opportunity to go back, to check on things, to get stuff from there. I think that all would be great. I think through the process, in the very least, you could answer more of your questions.
I'm envisioning our return and then, like, the beast continuing to raise havoc and it's like, top 10 anime betrayals.
You come back and the town is just completely wiped out.
And we're like,
So sad.
And then Tao like pulls out a knife and slaughters Asiri.
No!
Kill Asiri on the spot. Like, you son of a bitch. This is your fault.
No!
I will say that since this didn't happen, I'm fine talking about it. If the beast had died, I was planning on Asiri giving herself to somehow have it survive.
That would have been so interesting. That would have caused so many questions.
That leads into my thought about what might have happened, what might I have done differently, what if things had gone differently. Something I don't think we've mentioned at all is that Smog and Pony ran off in the middle of the battle to go find Rig. Smog's thought process was, this is turning into a fight. Because it's at least 2 gods versus 1 god, it's probably going to end up with the beast dead. And he had asked Tao earlier, before it was heading into a fight, what do you think happens to the people of the world of spirit if this dies? Are they going to be able to sleep? Are they going to be able to live? Are they going to be able to transform? It's important to them. His idea there was, if the beast ends, there's still something about it that can't end. Like, there's a quality to it, a domain it has. He was going to open a portal to the world of spirit and send the remains back for the people of the world so that they could still have that aspect of themselves. That was his plan.
God, so interesting. I was fully prepared for you guys to kill the beast. Full stop. Like, if that was a way that you wanted to go about this, that is an option. As you guys saw, neither convincing nor killing are necessarily easy. This is sort of the final culmination of the world, but they're viable options. There's still routes that can be taken, the consequences of which I would love to explore too. Because, again, things persist. Things remain after they're done.
What about you, Dex? What would you have done differently had things changed?
So differently to how I've answered this question in previous times I've been on the podcast, where I thought Athenos really did what he wanted the majority of the time. I think this time I do have a regret, or like something that I would have done differently. I think I would have fought the beast a little bit harder. Maybe not like outright kill the beast, but perhaps enact what Athenos would consider a hunt of the beast. So whether that's like subduing it, of like a hunt the boar kind of situation, but not necessarily like in the same way that the beast is hunting these people. Perhaps he might have been able to show the beast how to hunt something without killing it.
What about you, Dan? You have the most options to select.
Not as much about the session, but about the world. It's kind of like what I mentioned. I would give more opportunities to test the ideas that were running around. And I'd have figured out some ways that you guys could do some trial and error to see what things were really like.
All right, anything else?
If you guys were in the world of spirit, what animals would you turn into?
Oh shit. Like us, the people?
Yeah, Sammie, Dex, and Alex.
Sorry, I'm an entity. I don't qualify.
Okay.
Wow! Wow!
What a cop-out answer.
I've got a trio of cop-out answers. My screen name is fucking Shining Crowbat, so I'm stealing from Sammie probably. I'm gonna be a bat. I'm a large gay man. You got a bear. But you know what is a bat and a bear? It's a Moogle.
Oh shit.
Damn.
Oh, fuck, we've come full circle.
We come full circle.
Damn.
That's because I swear to God, if Sammie just said, "Hey, I'll be a mermaid."
No, let me think about that for a second. There's a lot of animals I'm very drawn to. Like, I love every animal. The only animal I'm ambivalent towards the existence of is ticks. I really love the freedom of something like a whale, what that would provide. But I am also enamored with butterflies and moths, which is, if you know me, not very surprising. Maybe a butterfly, maybe like a pipevine swallowtail or something.
How about you, Dex?
I also have 3 answers. 1, wolf at Thanos. 2, I just love tigers. No other reason for that one. And 3, binturongs, just because I think they're super cool. They're Southeast Asian bear cats.
They're sweet.
Love that.
Yeah.
Someone you know might have had that as a persona at some point.
Interesting.
Okay. That's such an ominous thing to leave off on.
What about you?
Is that going to be your thing that no one can answer in the outro here?
I just edit that into the end.
Oh no, Daniel, what would you turn into?
Hermit crab.
Oh yeah, that's
I
right.
like hermit crab.
That's true.
Oh hell yeah.
Kitty cats are a good option too, but I feel like a lot of people are cat boys, so
Pelta.
that's fine.
You can be a cat boy. You can be part of the crowd.
You make Catboy if you want to be, sweetie. Alright, let's get into the resolution phase, the segment of the show where we each get to say something about the game with no responses. What is your final say on this session, Dex?
I think I, Dexter, am really glad that I trusted Sammie in a series trust of the Beast. It was very surprising. I also have a Twitter. I'm at DexFanWrites. You can see my unhinged tweets there, I suppose. And that's it.
Alright, what about you, Daniel? What are your final thoughts?
With faith, you guys have found your connection in the world of spirit. I don't have any social media, so you can find me inside of my shell. I'm all curled up inside.
Alex, what about yourself?
I've actually enjoyed being without Rig for Smog because it's let me flex the strange limits of Juice's magical power with bad breath. You can find me on Twitter at Shining Crowbat. I also recommend checking out Butterfly Soup and Butterfly Soup 2 by Brianna Lay. Both are pay what you want. They are visual novels about Californian queer teenage girls in the late 2000s playing baseball and instant messaging each other. It's incredibly funny and very nostalgic for me.
For myself, I think this last session really solidified a lot of a series understanding, or at least made concrete some of the things her very cryptic elder was trying to teach her. So I think she has a sense of direction moving forward here. However, how that works with the rest of the party remains unseen. She's been hurt, and a lot of the things that happened in this last episode kind of messed with her head a little bit. So we'll have to see where that goes. You can find me in the corner, wailing every night. Don't wake up. This has been Resolve, an afterplay show. You can find us online at most social media sites at ResolveAP.
Except Instagram, which is at ResolveAfterplay.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. You can buy the game we're playing, Interstitial, Our Hearts Intertwined, from its creator, Riley Hopkins, at linksmithgames.com.
All links will be included in the description of the episode.
Thank you again for listening. We end our turn here, so now it's your turn. Tell us what's happening in your game.